This episode is wild. It is crazy. Lauren drinks too much spotted cow, but we get right down to business on this thing. We're going to talk about the perceived conflict between deer hunting and coon hounds in this episode. It's raw, and there are no holds barred in this point blank episode. And we're pretty rough on deer hunters on the front end of it, but it was in good fun. I mean, we are the subject of all kinds of misinformation and things about how hounds affect deer hunting. And so we have a little bit of fun up front, but I think if you listen all the way to the end of this one, you're going to hear what we really are looking for as a hunting community as a whole, not identifying as a houndsman, not identifying as a deer hunter or a rabbit hunter or a coyote hunter or whatever you're hunting, waterfowl, whatever. This is about getting it all out there on the table and asking the hunting community to come together as a whole. Let's stop picking at each other. Let's stop fighting amongst each other. Let's have real conversations that are beneficial to the cause of securing hunting for the future. That's what it's always been about. That's what we've always been about. You're going to love this podcast. It is fun. There's a lot of laughs in it. Josh and Lauren join me on this Point Blank episode. Before we get there, guys, I just want to tell you, thank you. You guys have been knocking it out of the park. I mean, you've been super engaging on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't done so and you're enjoying these podcasts, go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating, but also write us a line or two about what you're enjoying about the podcast. It helps us so much. We are hitting great numbers with our rankings and stuff like that, and it's because of you. So thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate you spending your time. Check out our website at www.houndsmenxp.com. And there is a program on there called Patreon where you can support this show for as little as $1 a week. What comes with that? I just got a package in the mail yesterday from Garmin, and we're going to be putting that up as a prize for a monthly prize drawing. But we do monthly prize drawings. We do semi-annual when we do annual prize drawings. Like I said, we got good prizes for that. We gave away a Ging 4 packet charge last month. $199 value. It's well worth your time. Join us on Patreon. It's got a lot of possibilities for you to engage with great houndsmen in that community. So www.houndsmenxp.com. Click the support tab. You get into our Patreon page. Guys, let's get right down to it. This is too much fun to keep it on hold. The Old South Dog Box is rocking. It's time to drop the tailgate and dump the box. What are you drinking, Josh? Are you drinking beer? Or are you drinking?
I'm drinking beer now. I'm not drinking the double oaked yet.
Yeah.
I was gonna open the double oaked, but then you were 30 minutes getting the podcast started, and if I'd have been drinking it the whole time, you'd have just been like, I'd have been drooling on myself, and it wouldn't have been good.
Was that like
maybe I should pace myself?
Was that like your parting gift from your brother?
Oh no.
Huh?
No, my brother wouldn't give me that good a parting gift. That stuff's like $80 a bottle.
Oh,
well, how long? But how long you been working for him?
15 years. I got a brand new Chevy truck as a parting gift.
Hey.
Not brand new. It's like a 2020.
Yeah.
My brother's helping me build a dog box, so that's like some nice sibling.
That's pretty good.
Nicety.
Yeah.
I made my brother like.
Lie to your friends, not us, Josh. We all know that Jeremy's the brains of that operation. And he gave you one truck.
One truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gave me a lot more than that. Yeah, I did all right. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, so you're when this podcast comes out, it's going to be your first day. You want to make the announcement on the podcast?
Yeah, can.
Because it'll be out. This is coming out November 8th.
I just hope it's not a bad
That'll be my
omen.
first day. That'll be my first day with Joy Dog Food.
I hope it doesn't curse you.
What is the official title for you at Joy Dog Food?
Sales manager, regional sales manager, I believe.
Yeah.
We're kind of under the gun here for everything was just got put together so quick. And so we still got a lot to do this week before everything gets sorted out with the joy stuff. But yeah, it's good. Looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah. It should be. Whoa.
You get to travel the country and have your dogs with you and hunt at night, work during the day.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
How come you keep beating on the table?
Oh,
you were yelling at who were you yelling at the other day?
It was Finley. Finley is like he's doing a tap dance on the table. I mean, it's all the time with him. You gotta watch him.
Yep. No, what are you drinking tonight? What is that?
What do you think, Chris? It's your most hated beverage.
I can't see it. Oh, that's that cow piss beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the good
Spotted cow.
Yeah.
That doesn't look. See, it's even got some coming out of where. Oh, that's the state of Wisconsin. It just looks like a piss puddle.
Yeah. So like the logo on this can, you guys are listening. You can't watch a podcast. I'd like to point that out to our listeners.
Don't. Yeah, we're not. That's going to burst some bubbles right there.
We're not Joe Rogan.
Can't watch a podcast, not yet. But there's this on this can of Spotted Cow. There's like a cow jumping over the state of Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's kind of by her udder. So, Chris does not agree with this beer. He does not like this beer. That's okay.
It is way overrated.
I think that beer is utterly fantastic.
I like it. That's a dad joke right there. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had a drum.
Yeah, you do. There you
go.
Oh my gosh! I'll tell you what, man. So, are you guys are in full swing in deer season, both places.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
I've been putting a lot of thought into this.
So have I.
About this whole topic. You worry me because I've been reading your messages and I don't know where you're going to fly off, what rage you're going to fly off into right now.
I don't think anyone knows where Lauren's ever going to fly off to. That is why I am termed Mother of Chaos. I will try and keep it reined in. I know our path here and I understand it. I know I work so hard for what I do, and I wanted to say that just give the followers a little bit of a story. Over the weekend, my deep freeze went out in the basement, and I don't know how long it had been out, but I had all my coon hides in there from last season and all my venison, and I opened it up and it was not good. I was not able to salvage my venison. But I was able to salvage all but 2 hides. So, but I had to flush and stretch and put up, I think it was only 10 hides. But it was not what I wanted to do over the weekend, but it kind of made
So when you take your hides in, do you probably take in those old greasy things that still have like chunks of eyeball and stuff hanging off of them, or do they look pretty good when you're done putting them up?
When I take them, like when I put them up, like what do they look like?
Yeah, after you get done.
Well, they're not like, the masters that I've seen and I've watched and all that. And I don't have like the prime setup for flushing.
Are you using like your ironing board and a butter knife? Kind of like the way you do everything else?
Honestly, it kind of feels like it because, I mean, what's more Lauren than skinning the coon with a paring knife from your kitchen still, and using an old fleshing beam that was gifted to you that you sit on a bench and you have the coon is up here and you have to pull down instead of pushing away from your stomach.
I got to tell my freezer story.
So no, there's no chunks of eyeball, there's no chunks of fat or anything. It was really hard for me to get kind of everything above the shoulders. It was really hard. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it to sell them. I'm doing it just to get them tanned. So they dry up just fine, and I'll send them out to get tanned, and I'll be.
Yeah, it's good. There's time worth haul them, take them somewhere to get them tanned or sell them.
Right.
What's your freezer story, Josh?
Well, it would have been in 17, I think. We had that dog called Fistful of Dollars. which my brother owned. And,
never heard of him.
Yeah.
No.
So Dollar
go
got
ahead.
sick as a 5-year-old. He had got into some poison, we assume, while hunting. And he died early. He'd won a lot of money. The dog was a good dog, but he died early at 5 years old. And we had done our best. We had spent thousands on this dog trying to get him healed up, and he didn't heal up. He ended up passing. And so the morning I went out to check on him, I found Dollar in his doghouse dead, and which was bad enough anyway. And I called Jeremy. Jeremy still owned half of him. I owned half of him. And I called my brother and I said, hey, Dollar just died. I said, we need to get him and get him buried, you know. And he says, we'll just put him in a freezer.
Like my guinea pig, like my mom did my guinea pig.
Yes. I had a big deep freeze. It was hot, but we were both super busy that day. We couldn't do it that day. We didn't want his body to go bad or anything. So I put him in the freezer.
You guys have an excavating company.
Yes, I know. We're aware.
Yeah.
And so he was in the freezer with a bobcat I had caught the fall before, a few coon hides, not much, some frozen ducks that I had used for training my lab, and some odds and ends stuff. Maybe a frozen pizza tossed on there somewhere, a party pizza. I don't know. And so 2 or 3 weeks go by.
Add extra flavor.
Yeah. 2 or 3 weeks go by, and my son walks out to the kennels, and the shed was right there. And he opens the door of the shed, and he goes, man, it smells like a mouse dead in here or something. I said, oh, kind of weird. And I went in there and opened the freezer door just a little bit, and it had quit, obviously, 2 or 3 days before that. And, oh, yeah. So Dollar, God rest his soul, PKC Gold Champion, fistful of dollars, was buried, freezer and all. I took and I bolted the freezer down. I self-tapped it down to where it couldn't open. And me and a couple guys that worked for us loaded him into a truck, drove him to Jeremy's. We buried the whole freezer with a track hoe. He's got a casket, the whole works. He's in there with some game animals. It couldn't have turned out any better for Dollar.
That is sarcophagus. That is a sarcophagus royal burial.
Exactly. That is a royal tomb. That was the first dog that I ever done any winning with in PKC.
Well,
nice.
He was buried right, Josh. Good job.
Exactly. That's what I thought too.
Did you go ahead and make a headstone for him and stuff?
No, but we know exactly where he's at because we buried him right behind a pond that Jeremy was digging out with the track hoe. So we know exactly the location.
Yeah. That is.
We were going to bury him on a hill next to Deuce and Suds and all these dogs of the past that Jeremy had owned that were great dogs. And Jeremy smelled the deal and said he wasn't taking it down to the kennels, and we're just going to bury him right here where the track goes at.
Yeah. Hey, this is a good spot. He'll have his own special spot overlooking the pond.
He does. Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
I still go down there and take my hat off every now and then.
Yep.
The things that us houndsmen or trappers or whoever have in our freezers. Like,
yes, it's.
My mom really wanted to clean out like my upstairs freezer in my kitchen. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. You can organize it. She's going through there. She's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's just a coon hide. She's like, it's right next to your venison. And I'm like, yeah. So
everything's frozen. What's the problem?
Right.
The germs aren't going to jump.
No coon hunter or trapper or anybody worth the salt hasn't moved a coon hide out of the way to eat a burrito.
You got that right. That right.
I'm proud of it. I'll own it. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? And I'm doing stuff with my hides, and anyone who's freezing their hides too is doing stuff with them. So all you can do is applaud that person.
You bet.
Yep. I don't think we got to introduce anybody if nobody's figured this out by now.
No.
You know, I think we're all good there.
I haven't been on one of these in a while. I've been.
Oh, do you need introduced?
No, I don't. But I'm just
Lauren Branny.
Thank you. Don't use my pronouns. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I've just kind of been in the background, just slinking around doing background work for y'all. So I'm happy to be here.
We got a lot of cool stuff coming for Houndsman XP, but you know, we've had some cool stuff going. And now we're getting ready to get some more, and we're not going to let any of that out of the bag tonight. I think what we're going to do tonight is like try to alienate ourselves as much as possible from the rest of the hunting community.
That shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah.
If we haven't already.
Yeah. And start calling some people out because, I spent my whole adult life and I've worked hard with the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance and the Indiana Sportsman's Roundtable and different things like that. But man, I'm going to tell you right now that this deer hunting thing has taken on a whole level of stupidity and a life of its own with some of these guys. I mean, I know tons of coon hunters and houndsmen that deer hunt and they
A
run their
majority
hounds.
of them
And
do. I
I mean,
would say.
you take somebody like Travis Holbrook. I mean, that guy's whacking $160 every year, usually more than one. Danny Perez out there. I mean, he's a deer slayer. He's a killer.
Stephen
And
Lab.
yeah, Stephen Lab, Jason Bingham. I mean, you can make a list of all these guys, and deer hunters act like we don't know what the heck we're talking about when it comes to anything besides turning the coon dog loose.
The deer
Dick
hunters
Brothers.
that
Dick
are
Brothers is always killing big deer too. Yeah.
World champion.
Yep.
World champion. Which dog did he own that was a world champion, Josh?
Was it Clay? Charlie Creek something? Tara? I don't know. One of them won a
It was
world
Tara.
hunt. Yeah,
It was
was it Tara? Yeah, it was
Yep,
Charlie
it was
Creek
Tara.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dick Brothers is
He kills some
he's got
hogs.
he's got some
Hog
booners
deer.
on the wall.
Yeah.
He's serious. But yeah, I think I've figured part of it out. Okay, and the ants that houndsmen raise or have, they get the deer hunters get all edgy about seeing a dog on their property. We got cell phone cameras out there. I've got a neighbor that's got he didn't even buy cell phone cameras. He just bought cell phone home security devices, and he's got them posted all over his property. And if anything moves across that property, he knows about it, and he worries about it, and he does all that.
Oh, and I'm sure he's attached to his phone 24/7.
I don't know how he works.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll send me videos of. I just got done installing a $2,000 underground fence around here to pin my dogs up so that they're not interfering. And it's the right thing to do. If my dogs don't need to be on this place, I get it. I understand that, man. I really do. I don't want my dogs up there. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt anything. Are you going to crack the top of the double oak?
I might. I think I will actually.
All right. It does, but it's a preconceived. It's a notion that they have that
it's an
this
old
is going
wives'
to.
tale, is what it is. Kind of.
It is. It's something that they perpetuated years ago. Whenever the outdoor industry first got big, you remember when the Outdoor Channel came out and Bill Jordan and Michael Waddell are killing these great big deer, and then all of a sudden someone chirps up about some dog running their deer off, and the next thing you know, it's the end of the world. Because in the 60s, 70s, early to mid 80s, everybody had dogs. I'm just speaking for around here, and for most of the Midwest where I've traveled too, everybody had running dogs. Everybody had beagles. Yep. Everybody had a coonhound or two tied behind the back or behind the house that they just hunted during coon season. And they did that in the same places they deer hunt. But there wasn't so much emphasis put on mature deer and some of these quality deer management association tactic or things that they conjure up that technically aren't really great for the deer herd, in my opinion. They're just great to grow big horns on things, but and all that stuff came about at the same time. And with it came this myth, this legend that has no basis in fact whatsoever, that a hound on a property or a dog of any kind on a property is going to negatively affect your deer hunting. And it's just not the case. I mean, we've got all kinds of studies that prove it now. I mean, it's just not the case.
Yeah. The famous study out of South Carolina that we've cited several times. Yeah, we were in a meeting with the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance years ago, and it was in the Natural Resources Advisory Council meeting. And we presented the study from South Carolina to show that there is no impact on running dogs and deer hunting. And the state biologist in the state of Indiana challenged us on it. My response to when they say, "Oh, we've got science on our side that says it does not affect it. My challenge to deer hunters out there is show me your science that says it does.
Exactly. Yes.
And now I'm talking about when we're talking about how states write their regulations. I'm not talking about going on somebody's property without permission. In most states is wrong no matter what. There's no way around it. Now, we're not going to dispute it. We need to respect landowner rights. I want to know when people come on my property, but when we're talking about state regulations and closing seasons down and this perception that, we can't hunt during this time because it's going to interfere with the deer season
in Wisconsin
is ludicrous.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, we did. I think it got changed. I should have been more up on this. In the northern half of the state, we had a leash lock law during the 9-day gun season.
Yeah. And I got to give kudos to the Missouri Department of Conservation because they come under a lot of fire for certain things, but they are generally, not always, but generally so good about access for the minority hunters. And I'm talking guys that want to go squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting or coon hunting with hounds, not the deer hunters and the turkey hunters. They don't just cater to them. They do it to a point because that's where some of their bills are paid, I guess. But they do a really good job of making sure that the whole, and what I try to tell the deer hunters is the world don't stop just because it's deer season.
That's exactly right.
We enjoy our sport just as much as you enjoy yours. We shouldn't have to stop for you. You shouldn't have to stop for us either. We should all be able to enjoy public land, and Missouri has a lot of that. However, we can do it and stay out of each other's way, but we can't just shut it down. The fact that Wisconsin basically allows or doesn't allow you to turn a dog loose. I know Illinois, I believe, has some of the same rules during gun season. I mean, I'm not positive on that, but I think there's a closed section during the gun season where you can't turn a dog loose. I mean, it's ridiculous. We all pay our taxes. We all pay for our permits. We all should have, equal access.
Yep. And you bring up an interesting concept there about, dog friendly and season dates and things like that. It's got to the point where, again, I spent my whole adult life working in the wildlife profession. I've been in meetings. I know how those things how regulations are made, how they're formed and how they get pushed through and different things like that. And we've gotten to the point where, especially in the East, that we're neglecting this management of our small game species because there's no money in it. There's no money in it for them. And so we've pushed everything to managing for a whitetail deer, and all the while everything else is going to pot. I won't mention any name.
Look at Massachusetts and what they did and how their small game population, and they have the largest rabies outbreak.
Right. Okay, so I can not name names, but I know several biologists who work for the state in different states that say, man, I just let me do wildlife management. I'm tired of doing deer management.
Yeah.
They really do, but they get so much pressure that it's all deer. And don't get me wrong. I mean, in Indiana, we had and we still do, the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance. I am very proud of the relationship that we've got with the Indiana Sportsman's Roundtable, the Indiana Deer Hunters, the Indiana Bow Hunters. Man, they used to buy paintings for our banquets, and we would support their banquet and sponsor prints and stuff back and forth. So it can be done, but it's not. The problem is the people that are running those organizations are hurting as bad for membership participation as every hound organization. They got these fringe line guys that are plugged into the outdoor hunting channels 24/7 that are buying this stuff hook, line, and sinker. And I've got a theory. I've got a theory on it. You want to hear my theory on why these guys?
We would love to.
All right. So this is my theory. These guys spend thousands of dollars a year to kill
deer hunters that are not hound hunters.
Yeah, the deer hunters. The deer hunters spend
here.
thousands. I mean, and if you besides the cost of the place to hunt, if you're leasing or you own the property, you know, in cell cameras and blinds and food plots that are only targeted to kill a deer, and solar powered electrical stuff and Wi-Fi connectivity in their, you know, so they can update their Facebook friends, and they've got to have the latest techno, highest price clothing so they can look cool. So they spent thousands of dollars all year long. And then at the end of the year, when they don't kill a deer, they can't go back to their wife and say, I suck at hunting. So they've got to have an excuse as to why they didn't kill a deer. That's it. That's my theory.
Like, oh, I saw this dog on a trail cam once.
Exactly. Man, I had a dog on my trail cam. That would have been the day the old Mossy Horns would have walked through. And if it wouldn't have been for that guy that lives 4 miles away. And my question is who do they send? Who do they complain to? Or who do they send pictures of the bobcats and coyotes that are on their property every day?
Or wolves.
Well, that's the other thing that I've always wondered about. All these guys that are complaining about a hound running across their property. It's a good thing they don't live where there's something that actually wants to catch and eat their deer.
Yeah.
And they blame coyotes. I know around here it's we got to kill the coyotes. We got to kill the coyotes, the fawn killers. We got so many deer. It is disgusting. And it is their fault that we have all these deer. And now we have diseases. We have all kinds of stuff running through it. And we got the
population.
They won't shoot a doe. They set out here for our archery season starts September 15th. It ends, I believe, January 15th. And then rifle season is 9 days long. And then there's muzzleloader season. There's alternative method season, things like that. And so there's basically 4 or 5 months of deer season. And our doe harvest is hardly nothing. I mean, it's the same as it was 30 years ago. And they absolutely will not kill a doe. And so you get one guy who comes in here, which we live on the, and also keep in mind, I have good relationships with a lot of these people. I do too. I'm not a big fan of the practices and how they manage their property, but I also have good relationships, and I understand they like their sport, and I understand they're passionate about it, and that's fine. But when you look at the science says when a TV hunter, which is what we call them, the locals all call you guys TV hunters, by the way. If you show up with your big jacked up truck with Louisiana plates and it says Buck Hunter on the license plate, we make fun of you, just so you know. The locals don't like you. We're not big fans, and we think that's pretty douchey.
We get the fibs. We get the fibs up here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we get a lot of the South and a lot of the East Coast. You see a lot of New Jersey, you see a lot of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. But anyway, I'm sure most of them are great guys. I don't know. I haven't met a lot of them. But they'll come up and say lease 400 or 500 acres. And they will take off that 400 or 500 acres, if they're lucky, 2 or 3 guys, $1 or $2 a year, never a doe. And the neighbor that's got 60, that is actually eating the deer, he may kill 2 or 3 does or something like that. But he's not touching that 500, and the deer just exploded. And now you're looking at things where the MDC is going out calling deer and shooting deer over bait piles and things like that, because we're getting, CWD, and we're getting things like that is starting to show up in Missouri, and it's going to be in Iowa, and it's going to be in all these states around here, and we're going to have a trouble because we can't keep deer numbers down. And because they don't want to kill deer, they just want to kill big deer. They're not managing a species. They're essentially managing for large racks, and that just doesn't make any sense to me.
There's a theory out there that CWD is actually an agenda that's being pushed by the anti-hunting crowd.
That is a theory. And then I also know that the MDC makes all of their money. Well, not actually in Missouri, but Missouri has a gas tax or a half-cent sales tax or something like that funds the MDC so they can stay pretty independent. But a lot of these conservation organizations and a lot of these deals are based on whitetail money. Iowa gets their money. Iowa gets their money from whitetails.
Indiana would be broke without whitetail.
Minnesota would be the same way, and they are scared to death of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and they are wanting to shut
Do you know
seasons
how
down, and
often-
they're wanting to basically wipe deer out to fix it.
You know how
Lauren?
often that CWD comes up in wolf talks here in Wisconsin?
Yeah. I know Wisconsin,
Like,
it's a
you've gotta be
CWD
kidding
such a big talk all the time.
You've got
Well, Wisconsin was a hotbed when it all started. I mean, it was all trickled down from Wisconsin. It's really kind of the first place that anybody realized what it was. Wisconsin's actually a pretty daggone cutting edge state when it comes to wildlife management and some of the practices that trickle down to these other states. But the problem is you get people. You get a group of people who buy into the hype on media. I've killed deer every way you can kill them, and I've killed some decent deer. I mean, I've got a few 140 and up, 140, and I've killed them with stick bows. I've killed them with flintlock muzzleloaders. I've killed them with camouflage. I've killed them without camouflage. I've killed them from tree stands. I've killed them on the ground. It's not an anomaly for me to go out and kill a deer. And the thing that I always wonder is if you take all the gadgets and you take all the hype away and you take everything away from them, if you show me a guy that you could airdrop into the middle of the Mark Twain National Forest or the Hoosier National Forest or up there in Lawrence country and that national forest, and they can go in there and they can read sign and they can read cover and they can find a position and they can kill deer consistently, that guy's a hunter. Not a manicured, groomed golf course for deer hunting out here with concealed blinds and all this other garbage. I'm not trying to divide.
Yeah.
I don't care how anybody kills a deer.
And
I hope they just kill them all.
I said the same thing the other day.
Hey, we don't advocate for the killing of an entire species. Let's just lay that out there. That was a
yes, we do not want whitetail deer to be extinct, but endangered.
No, we still need to eat. We still need to fill our freezers. Like, I'm kind of pissed off that I lost my venison. That was what I was going to eat all winter. I prefer venison to beef. But kind of to bring it back to like the whole dog thing, like I bet at least a quarter of our followers, like who are on Facebook, have seen like the meme, the picture, and I may be kind of exaggerating or changing the wording here, but if you can't kill a deer in the same woods that you're running dogs, the dogs aren't the problem. It's you that's the problem. Or like you need to be a better hunter or whatever it is. Like, for you guys have killed a lot of deer. Like, you guys have experience with that and all that. I have personally never killed a deer, but I also didn't get into hunting till a couple of years ago when I started with dog hunting, and now I'm progressing. I did turkey, and now I sat for deer for the first year. But I've also been in the woods a ton, and I also hunt the same woods that a lot of people deer hunt. And I have permission to coon hunt at the same time that these people are archery hunting, the same time that they're gun hunting. And have experience seeing deer, seeing how my dogs react to deer, and then seeing what the culmination of that is, and these deer that get killed in the same woods that I'm coon hunting.
I think it's funny that Lauren put the brakes on a conversation. That was funny.
That don't happen often.
No. But the other thing, I do want to, I want to make it clear. We have preached and preached and preached and begged people to learn how to bridge the gap with these other hunting.
We haven't been doing a very good job at that for the first 20 minutes of this podcast, Chris.
I know, but I know
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm expressing my frustration as much as anything, and I've worked around it my whole life. And when I was a game warden, it wasn't uncommon for us to get out and do foot patrols and go through the woods and check deer hunters. And for every person that ever said, "I can't believe you're checking me," there's no way that I'm going to see any deer. I push so many deer 2 people. I'd see them take off and boom, around the corner, I'd hear the shot, or over around, the next holler over. You go over there and some guy's standing there over a 150s class buck. And I watched it. I did it. I know what happens. Those bucks go into lockdown mode when people start getting out there. When it comes fall, you always hear the stories about the farmers that are out there that like, you guys are all crazy. I see deer here every day in blue jeans and a Carhartt jacket. Yeah. And I'm telling you, when those deer, the weather starts changing and they start seeing weird objects and shapes in the form of camouflage moving through the woods, they know something's up. And they start getting real weird acting. But this is what I want to make the plea to our deer hunting friends out there who may have tolerated the first 20 minutes of this. This is a serious conversation. I want you to think about something. When we come through there, if we do spook a deer on a piece of ground that you're deer hunting on, there's a reason why that deer is there. There's a reason why he's there. He needs food. He needs cover, and he needs a mate. Those are the 3 things that are drawing him to the place that he's at. If I walk through there and I happen to push him out of that bedding area or that area, especially if he's tending does, he's going to want to come back there.
That deer does
especially
not
at
go
night.
Far. That does not go far.
At night, and the best thing that could happen to me if I'm a deer hunter sitting on the edges of one of those bedding areas where those bucks move in there nocturnally and they lock down through the day, man, if I push him out of there in the middle of the night and he's going to want to come back in there, and you're going to be sitting on your stand when he tries to do
and he's going to want to come back in there at daylight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. And that's the serious conversation I want to have about it, and try to offer that olive branch out there. We're frustrated.
I also have one thing to say though, too, is a ruddy buck is a ruddy buck. And just because you've seen him on trail cams for 2 months, 3 months leading up to gun season or whatever it is, does not mean that he is still going to be there.
You're exactly right. And any serious deer hunter will tell you that the most unpredictable deer to hunt is a rutting buck. Food source bucks that are moving to food source, you can pattern them. You can, but once the rut starts, man, it gets wild. And stuff shows up in front of your stand that you never knew was on the face of the earth.
How many people have you talked to and they said, I've never seen this deer before? They're sitting over there, 165-inch, 170-inch deer. Like, I've never seen this buck before. And then there'll be a neighbor 3 or 4 miles away. Yeah, I had that buck on camera all summer long. These things move a long ways. Yeah,
and I think that it's a deal like we do it too as houndsmen. We get stuck in our head that there's only one type of dog that works. There's only one breed of dog that does this, or we do it too. There's only one type of tracking system to use. We do the same thing in our hound hunting community. We get tribalistic and we believe this stuff. And the thing is, the hunting industry in general has gotten to the point where if somebody has a big name and they're naming deer on their cameras and stuff, and then they see them on TV, put that deer down, or on a YouTube channel, they take that deer that was named and they watched it for 3 years and they've got his sheds from the previous 2 years and all this stuff. They think that's normal.
And they think it's their deer too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think there's room here for a lot of understanding. It's easy for us to ask for it because we're the minority. But the other thing that we're all sportsmen out here, and I think we get painted with a broad brush a lot of times. One of the highlights of my hunting year is going to deer camp with my brothers and my nephews and stuff like that. That is one of the highlights of my hunting year. It's a tradition.
We still go to deer camp every year before rifle, and none of us even deer hunt.
I've never been invited to deer
we go to deer camp. We play cards. We drink a few beers. We grill a few burgers, and then nobody wakes up in the morning and goes deer hunting.
Yeah, and when I go to deer camp, I think last year I hunted for maybe 45 minutes the
Yeah.
total time. The rest of the time I was helping my nephews get their deer out, and I was cooking lunch, and I was doing all this stuff. It's tradition, and I get it, man. I love it.
It's
I
camaraderie.
absolutely love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
the
Awesome
tradition
stuff.
isn't actually harvesting the animal, and I think that's something to point out. Like, the tradition is like everything that encompasses it. It's not like like tradition is not killing to us. I just want to point that out.
And even at that, I mean, Josh, you're in a huge deer hunting area. I am too, right here. Lauren, deer hunting has always been huge in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You know, it's a culture. But man, I know guys that put their hounds up for the first week of deer season because either they're deer hunting themselves or they just give it a break. You know, it's like
we
let the deer
usually
hunters
do.
have it.
We have a 9-day gun season, and from that opening Saturday to the next Sunday, most of the time, me and pretty much everybody I know and everybody that I hunt with doesn't coon hunt. And,
Well, and
part
it's
of that is because some of it we're deer hunting, but part of it is because we've spoken ill about a few deer hunters here, but we hunt a lot of deer hunters ground, a lot of deer hunters that are great guys that allow us to coon hunt all year long. And we'll only come in here for that 9 days of gun season. And we appreciate that. And we're courteous enough to, of course, we're not going to hunt that 9 days. I mean, you give us 300 and some plus days a year. I mean, that 9 days is no big deal.
Yeah,
Right.
it's total respect.
Right.
And if someone
Yeah.
asks me like, "Hey, just don't hunt during the gun season," I'm like, "All right, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I'll respect you, but at the same time, I also like educate them a little bit too."
Yeah.
And there's spots that I can go during the gun season, and still be fine, where people still hunt. But the guys that do put their dogs up like while they're deer hunting, it's because they're living, breathing, eating deer hunting during that time, and there's like no other, like, you can't, wake up at 4 a.m, 5 a.m, and go deer hunt, do your whole job, and then go run dogs at night till midnight. Like, you got, everybody's got a life. You got to
Yeah.
sleep a little bit.
Yeah, and deer hunting is a deal. I mean, I'd rather get a call in the evening to go help a buddy track a deer during especially right now. I mean, our archery season's in full rut right now. It's a beautiful time to be in the woods hunting and shoot. I'd rather get a call right now from a buddy saying, "Hey man, I need help tracking a deer," than go turn my hound loose right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love turning those hounds loose, but at the same time, man, it's not all one-sided. And I think a lot of times deer hunters think that that's all we think about. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to make this podcast. We had some laughs and we probably picked some fights and made some enemies, but
what a lot of people don't know about is we used to live and breathe and eat nothing but archery deer hunting. We had an archery shop. We shot indoor. We shot 3D leagues. We worried about, and we still coon hunted. But I shot a lot of good deer with a bow. I've shot a lot of good deer with a rifle. My boy still does it. I still go out deer hunting with my son. But when it got to be a competition, amongst friends, I wasn't as intrigued as much. But a lot of that is still what it is. And now we compete with our dogs, so I can't be critical. But these guys,
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
I was going to call you out on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a competitive guy, and I love to compete with the Coondogs, but deer hunting was not that for me, and it is for some people, and that's fine. I don't care why somebody wants to hunt or anything like that, but they also have to realize that deer hunting isn't the only game in town. I mean, there's other people that like their sport and like their hobby just as much as that. So.
Mm-hmm. All I'm asking for is a reasonable conversation and be objective about it on both sides. I get and I'll say this, I get just as frustrated when somebody from that is a houndsman or a hound hunter that says, "Oh, you can't work with those deer hunters. All they ever think about is themselves." That is baloney. I can name names in the state of Indiana that have stepped up and helped us make sure that we had longer running seasons because we worked with them when we found common ground. And so it's out there. I'm just asking for these, and I'm not talking about your mainstream guys that are really out there putting their time into managing resource and making sure hunting regulations are right and working in those. I'm talking about these guys that are fringe, that spend all their waking hours looking at YouTube and looking at their cell phone game cameras. That's who I'm talking to.
So I kind of want to talk a little bit about personal experience, and you talked about like, oh, like these guys that, you know, say this and do this. Like, another thing that irks me is houndsmen or partners, wives of houndsmen that harp. This is a personal experience of mine. Harp on other houndsmen saying, hey, you can't go back to that property. You can't have your dogs out and run around in the afternoon just to hang, you know, get some exercise because we want to see deer on Thursday or whatever it is, you know? And like, I kind of want to talk about my experience with deer and hounds, what I've seen with deer and hounds, and how I train my dogs or break my dogs so that we don't have any problems. I think we need to kind of talk about that part of it too.
I have no idea where you're going, so you might as well just jump in.
Okay. So, you know, like all these deer hunters think that us houndsmen are going to ruin their hunt, right? Okay. We're hunting at night. You can't shoot an arrow at night. You can't shoot a gun at night. And if you do, you're a poacher.
Yeah, you can. I've met several people that tried.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm saying
I've never done that,
and that's illegal, and we do not condone that. And
when I met them, Lauren, they usually didn't really want to meet me.
They were running
talking
away.
about my former life.
Yeah.
I've
were the guys that were like spotlighting deer in fields.
Oh yeah.
Shooting
yeah,
from
go
the
ahead.
truck,
I'm sorry.
Shooting from the truck on the road. All just bogus stuff that no ethical hunter should ever do.
That's right.
So my personal experience on the farm I live on 80 acres. I live on a very busy intersection of 2 state highways. So there's always dump trucks, semis, jake braking, horns, lots of noise all the time. It's never quiet except for like 3 a.m. And then I run my dogs with the 4-wheeler pretty much every day. And I go to the top of the hill and they run around, and my dog's scent is everywhere on the property. Okay. The whole year. And one Saturday, I think it was last year, the one of the people that hunts the land saw on my Snapchat that I was up there with my dog and flipped their lid. It was like a 3:00 on a Saturday or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a weekday. I don't know. And I had a rough day and I just wanted to go up there and just hang out with my dogs like I do every day. And they're like, are you going to ruin everything? I'm like, this is normal. This is the pattern that everything's used to. I do this all the time. Like nothing's, you know, anyway. So that happened. And I respected them for a couple months. And I said, okay, well, I'll just keep them to the bottom field. So then I was coon hunting a couple weeks ago. And I was back there. I had 3 dogs out. And I see this buck. I'm just standing in the soybean field. My dogs are kind of outside, like on the edges of the perimeter of the property. And I see this buck in my headlight or my spotlight, my headlamp, whatever it is. And it's an 11-point buck. I'm like, this thing's huge. And I'm like, how are my dogs, like, how did they not see this thing? So I'm like, you know, shining it. I'm taking a cell phone video and all this stuff. I'm like, man, this is super cool. He like bounds across a soybean field up. And then I find him bedded down like a couple different times. And that buck never left 150 foot or 150 yard radius. And the last time that I videoed him, my dog.
I wish people could see all the hand motions while we're having this.
This is like too much talking. People are going to get annoyed. I know I'm telling like way too long of a story. But the last time I saw him, my dogs were 10 feet from him on a fence line. And that buck was just walking like behind.
They don't. Yeah, they just don't care.
And my dogs never ran that deer. And that's because in the off season, when it's not hunting season, I will set my dog up for success or failure, whatever you want to call it, and break them off of deer. And I was also hunting the other night, and I saw 3 deer on a ridge, just like at the top of a draw. And Ridge was out hunting, and I called him back to me, kind of. I don't know. I was like, but he was coming back, and he perpendicular crossed where those deer had been for probably 20 minutes and crossed their tracks and came to me and didn't even hinder from his tracks.
Well, I think one of the perceptions that you're describing is as easy as it is for us to make assumptions about. If we weren't deer hunters, we could make all kinds of assumptions about what they think and all this stuff. But they have a perception of what hunting with hounds is, and they think it's this one big free for all where there's no stops or breaks or anything like that, and they just don't understand it, and they can't fathom that we don't. If we're out there coon hunting, we don't want to chase dogs that run deer.
Nope.
We spend a lot of time and a lot of money, and well, I know, Josh. I know you're hunting those spotted dogs that, as long as they can run a deer and fall off on a coon. But now you're under the leash lock starting November 1st, and it's going to change your life. So,
which is good. We don't want the leash lock. We don't now. I will say that pretty much all of my dogs at one point, or still until the day that I will bump a deer every now and then.
Hey, I got the trashiest plots this side.
Yeah, I mean,
Mississippi River.
Duds is 10, and I promise you he will still run a deer. But we were talking, Lauren's talking about her dogs being on the same property all the time and things that's normal and routine. On my property, I have dogs running loose constantly. I either have pups, I have Blue, I have Jace's squirrel dog. And we kill, or the neighbor kills, on the ground behind my house, where dogs run on every day. Every day there are dogs on this property. They kill a 160 plus deer or bigger every year. I can't express enough how much that these dogs have little to no effect on deer movement and how deer move and why deer move. It just doesn't register. It doesn't bother them. It's not something that's gonna affect your hunting in any way. Which me and Zane, we're going to record a podcast for the Truth Series tomorrow night for our monthly recap. And we were going to talk about the same way. There's a property that we hunt that's 475 acres, 500 acres, something like that. It's a great place to start pups. And we hunt it between me and him and Finley and the people that are allowed to hunt it. It's probably hunted 2 or 3 nights a week, year round. This is a property that's also leased by two gentlemen from West Virginia. They pay a lot of money to lease this property. And Zane just texted me yesterday and said they killed another 175-inch deer on that farm. Wow. And they kill one every year, usually 2.
Good piece of property.
It just doesn't bother them. Yeah, it just doesn't bother the deer movement. It don't.
I'll tell you what, if deer hunters really wanted to, really wanted to scare-proof their deer, they would let people walk through that property. They would let people coon hunt on that property. It's no different than the farmer that goes out to feed his cows every day, and wildlife is routine. Yeah. I mean, it's all based on what they get used to. I mean, how many times have we seen videos?
This isn't the last of the Mohicans. These deer have seen people.
Yeah,
Well, and as Erica said in your post or on your comments, I think on my page or some posts that I made or shared, like they won't even let mushroom hunters in and all this other stuff. Like I coon hunted the night before, an 18-point atypical buck was killed on one of the farms that I hunt.
That's called a non-typical. I've never heard anybody. Have you ever heard
anybody
call a deer an atypical?
That's some wisdom. Only an atypical person calls a deer an atypical buck.
I was literally going to say that because I'm atypical and I'm an atypical deer hunter because I don't know anything. But anyway, non-typical 18 point the night after I coon hunted.
Some of our biggest deer have been harvested the night after we coon hunted, and it's the same story everywhere. But these guys just get, I don't know. I can't fathom it. I don't understand it. And so it's hard for me to quantify it, but I can't express how much the dogs, because we drive to all our trees too. You know, we're in there with rangers. We're in there with side-by-sides. We're in there with buggies and stuff. We drive to our trees. We got giant ass lights everywhere. And I mean, it ain't like they don't see us coming, but it just doesn't affect them. It doesn't. And they can tell me it does, but it doesn't.
I think I get a little more exercise than you then, Josh.
Yes, probably. I have to actually get up. I'm going to tell one quick story that's kind of off the subject. We were hunting the other night, and we were driving the side-by-side, and we got like 150 yards from the dogs, and Jed wanted to keep going. There's some giant logs in the way, and I told him not to because he was going to break something. He runs over one of the giant logs. The log comes back, smashes the windshield out of the Ranger. And you're talking about guys that get up and jog before work. And we wouldn't go that 150 yards to those dogs because we didn't want to walk. I ran a 5K this morning before I went to my job, but I didn't want to walk that 150 yards. Jed's the same way. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a deal where I'll tell you when the heat really got turned up is when people started using trail cameras. Started out as trail cameras.
I say most of the time people didn't even know there were people on their property.
Exactly. They had no idea that the neighbor's dog came through there. They had no idea that, you know, the farmer was there the day before because his fence was down. He had to get in there and get his cows out. And they killed it. They went in there the next morning. They hunted it like they were in the movie Last of the Mohicans, and nobody had ever set foot on that property. They had no knowledge of any of it, but now they know. And now it's a problem. And now it's an excuse for not killing a deer.
And I can't speak for big tracts of land, you know, out west or something like that, but in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, Indiana, Missouri, Iowa, these deer are used to people. These deer have seen people. They're not going to be shocked when someone shows up. I mean,
these deer are smart too.
Yes, they are.
Once the heat gets on, I've seen this multiple times. Even killed deer. I killed a buck one time like this, but they know that when the pressure is on down on the woods, they move up closer to the civilization.
Yeah,
they actually they will find a brushy fence row. And bed down in that fence row because no deer hunter is going to walk through here, and they're using people like a predator shield in that instance. They'll actually hunt that area. And, you know, you see guys that are capitalizing on, you know, hunting in these suburban areas and metropolitan areas.
You'll see deer like around here. They'll be in the golf courses. They'll be in crazy places where you never seen them before, you know, on the Wednesday of rifle season or something like that.
And that's where you just need to be a better hunter.
Mm-hmm.
You need to
smarter
deer.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yep, smarter hunter and a better hunter, and not buy into all the hype on everything.
And by talking about all this, we don't want to trespass. I mean, we don't want to be on your property. We don't want to be somewhere where we don't have permission. What we want is for houndsmen and deer hunters. No, we don't, and we shouldn't. And we shouldn't have our dogs on your property. If our dogs are on your property, it's our fault. And if we don't have permission there, you know, we should do our best to rectify that situation. But all we want is cooperation. You know, you don't want these coons wrecking your feeders. You don't want all these coons raiding your turkey nests and things like that. We can help with that, and we won't affect your deer hunting. We won't hurt your hobby in any way, and we'll be respectful, and we'll close gates, and we won't make ruts, and we'll do things that any normal human being should do, because we like our sport just as much as a hardcore whitetail hunter likes theirs. And we do respect the resource. We respect other sportsmen and things like that. And we just want to convey that, and we want to work together, because if we're not going to work together with deer hunters or any other kind of sportsman, quail hunters, beagles, or mushroom hunters, Lauren mentioned earlier, then we're all going to be in deep shit here before long, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got a question to ask.
Yes.
Go ahead. So we've got, all types of houndsmen, terrier people, dog men on this, you listening to this. Coyotes and deer are mortal enemies. What do you think about coyote hunting with dogs and how that affects things?
The deer hunting has shut.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lauren.
Is she trying to answer her own question?
I'm saying there's a lot. I'm saying there's a lot of people out here that won't run their dogs on coyotes until that deer season's done.
Yeah.
That's
well, the deer hunting has kind of shut down the coyote hunting in my area because coyote hunters need a huge swath of land. Coyotes make very large circles. They cover a lot of ground. When you're looking at a place like where we live, where most farms are 200 to down to 10 acres, you're going to have permission on an entire section, which may be 10 landowners, and it's hard to do.
Same here.
Yeah, and so the coyote hunters are kind of secluded to pens and things like that down here, where there used to be, say, when I was in high school in the mid 90s, late 90s, everybody had coyote hounds. But about that time, that's when the deer hunting kind of took off, and 40 acres got leased here and 40 acres got leased there, and that was the end of it. Does it affect the deer hunting? No, it does not. We know that as houndsmen, but deer hunters don't know that. They don't understand that. And in the deer hunters' defense, some of the coyote guys have really wasn't their. Yeah, they just their own throat with stuff like that too, because they didn't work with the deer hunters when they should have.
Hey! Your mic came unplugged or something. I'll tell you what. While you're fixing that, we'll do a sound check or something here.
You hear me now?
Oh yeah, much better.
Okay.
So let's get some takeaways on this, because I think where we've made most of our inroads with this podcast is equipping houndsmen that are out there to develop a narrative to talk about some of these things, so it doesn't turn into a screaming match at the fence line or the game warden showing up. Can I finish?
Think all of us can kind of pull.
Somebody needs to cut her off. No more spotted cows for Lauren.
It's number 4.
Yeah. So okay, Lauren, go ahead, and what's your opinion on how we develop this narrative? What are some takeaways that houndsmen can use to try to bridge these gaps in their local areas?
So I think a lot of us, if not all of us, can pull from personal experience and kind of explain what we've observed, what we've seen in the woods, and also how we've trained and broke our dogs, and explain that and educate those landowners or those leasees, those hunters, as to what we're seeing. Because they've got cell cams out, but they're not seeing the whole woods like we are every night, or every, for me, like 4 nights a week I've been hunting recently.
Right.
So
Josh,
I think, go ahead.
Josh, what do you think? You've put a lot. You've done some shows on this on Big Show Productions.
We just got to make relationships. Most of these deer hunters are good dudes. They really are. They just want to enjoy their sport just like we do ours, and they're ignorant to what we do. And not that they're ignorant people, but they're ignorant to what running a hound is. And so we just need to show them. We need to show them that we're just regular folks. We need to knock on their doors. We need to go eat supper with them. We need to help them. And if we just work together and you make relationships, all our property is deer hunters. I mean, 90% of the stuff we hunt is leased deer hunting, is guides, is outfitters, is things like that. And they just know after we built a relationship what kind of people we are and what we're doing, and it doesn't affect them much. So the best thing I can tell a houndsman that's in deer country is be respectful, go knock on doors, go make relationships, go make friends with these people, and explain to them what we are and how we go about doing things, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, that's great advice, both of you. The problem with trying to explain how we hunt our deer or hunt our hounds and things like that is they don't believe us.
Mm-hmm.
But so they need that personal
because
touch.
they haven't seen it.
Right. So they have no exposure to it. They have personal feelings about how that goes. Now, when I was working as a conservation officer, it started every year about this time of year. The landowner complaints would come in, about neighbors having tree stands too close to the line, a neighbor having dogs that are running loose, neighbors that are doing this. And they wanted me to come out and talk to their neighbor. And my answer was very standard. It's like, have you talked to your neighbor? Have you been a neighbor to your neighbor? And in this area where I live right now, the camps are starting to be habitated. People are moving in, and you're seeing the deer hunters there. Man, stop in there during the day, midday. Invite them over to your house for a cookout. And not so that you can go in there and hunt that night. That's going to be an unrealistic expectation. They're not going to want you to do that, but they get that personal touch. They know that there's a person that turned that dog loose. And even if it's not your dog and it's Lauren's dog or it's Josh's dog, they're probably going to think, hey man, that could be Chris's dog. And we ate dinner at his house and we drank a couple beers with him. He's a good dude and he loves hunting just as much as we do. But we're never going to get there by sitting back in our own little echo chambers and griping about the other side. And yeah, we went on a rant, and I still think the whole thing is because guys are scared of their wives about spending so much money and not killing deer. But we've got to be the people that step forward. And
it's just a misconception that people need to understand. And, it's partially our fault for not educating and not and more being on the defense about it or getting angry or whatever it is instead of being a little bit more proactive, I think.
Yeah. We can't be like Barney Fife, and sensitive. I'm not sensitive. What do you mean I'm being defensive?
Talk about, hey, age yourself without telling me how old you are, Chris.
I literally have no idea.
Lauren has no idea who Barney Fife is.
You just need to mute yourself right now because...
You mean all the time.
If I hadn't spent so much time with my grandparents, I wouldn't have known that either.
Get out of here. Man, my kids all know who Otis Campbell and Barney Fife and all of them are.
I bet they do, Chris.
I need to have a conversation with my parents and be like, apparently you didn't raise me right.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, guys, this has been I know we've talked about this stuff before, but I don't think we can talk about it too much. There isn't any thing more important than having good, positive relationships and a good public image. And we had some fun, and some of it was kind of serious, but some of it was all in fun too. So we're often the victims of a lot of stereotypes and things from the other parts of the hunting community. So we didn't want to pass up the opportunity on this platform to put some of it out there ourselves.
Yeah, we like to stereotype people every now and then ourselves, just in case. In case.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like Sitka gear. It's mostly I just don't like the guys that wear Sitka gear.
When you said that, I immediately was gonna say Sitka, but I didn't. I didn't know if there were some legal obligations here or not.
I think like everyone in the outdoor world has something to say in that regard.
They do. They do, especially because I still waterfowl hunt a lot, and man, the waterfowl guys, you're either Sitka or you're poor. There's no other options.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey. We're going to wrap this one up and put it in the bank. So, Josh, good luck on your new job, man.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Chip needs a lot of help.
Hey, Chip and Wade have been great so far, and I start here pretty soon. It's a new chapter, and it just like you guys with the podcast and us with the podcast. If we didn't believe in Joy, we wouldn't be doing this, and Joy wouldn't be a sponsor, and I wouldn't be going to work for them. It's a good company, so I'm excited.
They definitely need more distributors, a little more exposure.
They got such a good product. Yeah, they got such a good product. We just need to get it out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, till next time, you follow your hounds, I'll follow mine.
Deal.